Celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2024, Dungeons & Dragons has captivated fans across generations and become a cultural phenomenon. As part of Hasboro's year-long celebration of this milestone, Games Global will harness the world's greatest role-playing game to create an immersive, high-engagement slot experience, giving operators a chance to tap into the global fan base. Hey y'all, this is not the video I planned on making this week. I had planned a video about the things I actually liked from the D&D 2024 Player's Handbook. An admittedly short list, but it was a setup for a series of videos reviewing the 5.5 books and giving my critiques in thoughts. But in doing my research and prepping for the video, I came across the news that Hasboro licensed the Dungeons & Dragons IP to a giant online gambling company called Games Global in January of this year, and felt the need to talk about it. I know I'm late to the party. I know for some of you this may be old news, but it's news to me, and I really felt the need to make a video about what I think about this decision and how it will affect my content going forward. I'm still fully processing this news, but my first feeling is that this is gross. Hasboro, who bought Wizards of the Coast in 1999, only a year and a half after Wizards of the Coast themselves bought Dungeons & Dragons from the company that created it, which was called TSR, have never been shy about wanting to make money from D&D. Many, myself included, will remember the preposterous number of books made for 3.5. I can probably name 50 that weren't campaign settings or adventures. And I feel this was indicative of Hasbro's intent to squeeze the hobby for all it's worth, given that this was the first edition that came out after they acquired Wizards of the Coast. It really felt like in order to make a well-rounded and effective character in 3.5, you would need a minimum of 4, maybe 6 books to draw from for your feats, base classes, species, prestige classes, spells, magic items. Now, that's not to say that TSR did not do this. And by the end of AD&D 2nd edition, when they were just pumping out content as much as possible, trying to avoid bankruptcy, there were easily 40 or more books, but the vast majority of these were short, relatively cheap paperbacks, not $30 or more hardcovers like every 3.5 book was. And this trend continued through 4th edition, which had, I believe, no fewer than 3 player's handbooks and more than 24 other books with rules and abilities aimed at players, not even mentioning all of the books you needed as a DM. The ridiculous number of source books that you could use or at some level needed to use to play the game effectively in both 3.5 and 4th edition created a real barrier to people entering the hobby. Both financially, these books were not cheap, and that was a real problem, especially for a hobby that is meant in some way to be played by young adults and teens and kids, as well as just from an intimidation standpoint. The systems felt too large and expansive for new players to really feel like they could quickly, effectively, and easily grok the game to a point that they could participate in it. And so for me and for others that I spoke to and that I play with, 5th edition felt like a real breath of fresh air when the design ethos seemed to move away from this idea. you really could play the whole game very satisfyingly with just the core 3 books. And it was a full 3 years from when 5th edition started until we got our first significant rule supplement, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And there was a companion website in D&D Beyond, which, while not entirely free and certainly used the freemium model, the base free version had lots of content, enough to really play the game. And so all of this felt like maybe we were moving away from the milk the hobby for every dollar we can model. And I think this lowered barrier of entry really helped propel 5th edition into the cultural juggernaut that it became, and contributed largely to its massive success. In the years leading up to the release of D&D 24 in the last couple of years, it has definitely felt more and more like Hasbro is back on their bullshit and only interested in Dungeons & Dragons as a money-making vector. Not for its cultural or historical significance or for what it means to the people who actually play it. And while I know that this has always been the case, and while I have never been under any illusion that the executives at Hasbro give 2 shits about the hobby as anything more than a moneymaker, the acquisition of D&D Beyond in 2022 from Fandom, the creators, the attempt to alter and essentially kill the open game license in 2023, and now the licensing of the Dungeons & Dragons IP at the beginning of this year to a giant gambling online company, all feel like they point towards a policy of what can this silly game do for our bottom line, and not how can we continue to support and grow this game that we are the keepers of. To be clear, and for this entire video, these are my thoughts and opinions based on research I could find, and, you know, that's what this whole channel is, but I don't think these decisions were done by the people who actually work at Wizards of the Coast. All you have to do is listen to or watch an interview with people like Chris Perkins, Mike Merles, Todd Kenrick, to see a group of people passionate about Dungeons & Dragons and what it means to the people who play it and who interact with the hobby. Though I do think it is telling that all of the people I just named have been let go in the last couple of years. It has started to feel as though D&D's time in the cultural spotlight is waning. I think there's this swing in culture between fantasy and sci-fi, and I think we're moving away from fantasy and back towards sci-fi, and that has always had an impact on the hobbies that center more around fantasy. And it feels like Hasbro, as the cultural relevance of D&D begins to fade from its peak, is scrambling to milk every cent they can from the hobby. And this, licensing the IP to a company that designs online gambling games, just feels, as my wife likes to put it, greasy. I have no doubt that tabletop role-playing games, the hobby, will continue to thrive, and that Dungeons & Dragons will always be a major part of it. But I'm not sure if it will stay my tentpole game, at least for a while. I'm definitely going to keep making content talking about tabletop role-playing games, and at least for the next few weeks, I'm either going to be focusing on things that are system agnostic, similar to the 5 things I do to make my world feel richer system, or about games other than D&D. I'm very fortunate to have played a bunch, and unsurprisingly, have a lot to say about them. So yeah, if you like this, and would be interested in more content talking about topical stuff rather than gaming history and mechanics and lore, let me know in the comments. If you can, please give a like, a follow, and a share. It looks like almost no one who watches the videos likes them, and that's okay. Y'all tell me, but the almighty algorithm that we serve doesn't care about word of mouth as much. It really helps us grow and means so much to me and to the other people who I bounce ideas off of and I work with to make this happen. And look for us on Instagram and TikTok. I'm going to be releasing a series of videos this week, introducing and doing little sort of shorts based on some of my favorite NPCs from past campaigns. It is going to happen this week, I promise. And some other fun short form stuff that I've been cooking up with some of my friends. I look forward to getting back to more lighthearted and fun gaming stuff and actually talking about the act of gaming rather than the corporate bullshit around it next week. And thanks for making it to the end of the video. As always, let me know what you think in the comments or elsewhere, and I'll leave you with an excerpt from the press release, another one, for the sale of the D&D IP. But till next time, stay safe, stay nerdy, and I'll see y'all soon. Players can look forward to themed games that incorporate some of the world's most iconic brands, and these titles will undoubtedly prove successful for our valued operator partners. The first of many exciting releases in this collaboration, the Dungeons & Dragons slot, will combine Hasbro's world-building legacy with Games Global's expertise, promising to deliver a game that engages, entertains, and transports players to new realms of fantasy. See ya.